I'm Bill McWilliam, president of Cascadero Copper, CCD on the TSX Venture Exchange. Cesium is one of the world's rarest metals with a growing industrial demand. Drilling is underway on our Tehran property in Argentina to prove up a cesium resource. Cascadero's patent-pending leach process has the potential to make Cascadero the lowest cost supplier of cesium in the world. Visit our website, cascadero.com, or phone us at 604-924-5504.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mish Shedlock. He's the editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on MishTalk.com. Welcome back to the show, Mish.
Hey, pleasure to be back on. I missed you last week. I was in the California desert, the Anza-Borrega Desert State Park, out there for the wildflower bloom. It was pretty good. I wouldn't call it spectacular. I did some other stuff, too. I took some images of pictographs and petroglyphs. The former is painted, and the latter is etched in stone.
Well, if you like looking at ancient stone things, you should try Painting on Stone Provincial Park in Alberta. It looks like the Flintstones really live there.
I will have to check that out the next time I'm in town.
It's one of the most underpublicized, beautiful spots in the world. Mike?
All right. One of the most overpublicized things was the Fed was going to hike today, and they did. And Yellen actually said it should be no surprise to anyone. Of course, it was no surprise. The models predicted it, and the Fed tries to influence the sentiment, and they managed to do so a couple of weeks ago, essentially telegraphing the market that they didn't give a shit. They were, no matter what happened, they were going to hike. Now, the curious thing is, it depends on how we want to measure inflation. There's been inflation almost nonstop here since 2009, March of 2009, roughly. The way they measure it is such a joke. But anyway, we're looking at some hot year-over-year numbers in the CPI, and that's essentially due to a rise in oil. And for the last several months, oil has been stable. I don't think we're going to see the inflation that the Fed sees, but we do see it in housing. We certainly see it in the stock market. We see it in the bond market. We see it everywhere else, but where everyone's not looking. So on that basis, the hike certainly was warranted.
Is the U.S. economy hot enough to warrant a bunch of hikes?
Well, now that's a different question. I would say, again, looking at things from the Fed's point of view, probably not. The latest GDP Now forecast from the Atlanta Fed is under 1%, 0.9% to be precise. Of course, the New York Fed thinks that the next GDP result is going to be 3.2%. This is a massive discrepancy between these 2 points, between these two measures of essentially the same thing. They're both looking at the same economic forecast. One model says 0.9, the other one says 3.2. So that's a pretty whopping 2.3 percentage point spread on the same data. And the reason why I side with the Atlanta Fed is I'm looking at a lot of things. The latest construction report was pretty bad. The light vehicle report was bad. And some of these things actually we knew were going to be bad in advance, simply because of weather-related effects. January was unusually, December was cold, January was unusually warm. In December, all of the models looked at the increase in industrial production, electricity, heating, fuel, that kind of thing, came out. The report came out in January for December, and so they extrapolated all of this stuff forward. Guess what happened in February for January? The weather warmed up. I called this in advance, Jim, and I said, all of this activity and the factor report that they put on in December and extrapolated forward is going to be taken back. It was, and then some. Interestingly enough, though, only in the GDP Now model, not the New York Fed model. One of them is wrong. We'll see. I tend to be bearish on the economy. I'm siding here now with GDP Now and the Atlanta Fed.
We'll have more with Mike Shedlock right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mike Shedlock. Mish, the U.S. debt ceiling deadline is usually March 15th. I haven't heard much about it. Is it a big deal this year, and will they just extend it like they usually do?
Well, they're going to extend it. Of course they're going to extend it. The interesting thing here now is the Republicans, now that they're in control, they're all in favor of extending this thing. Recall when President Obama was in there, they put up a massive big fuss. We had all this sequester talk. It was amazing. But so here's the deal, Jim, and I'm sure it works the same way in Canada. The party in power always wants to increase spending. So so now the Republicans here who tried to do something about the budget when they weren't in control are no longer trying to do anything about the budget. So here we have, and if we can switch over to Obamacare for just a second, the something like, I don't remember the number. I'm going to make up something here now. 10, 15 times, maybe more. The Republican House passed measures to repeal Obamacare when they weren't in control. And of course, those measures went nowhere. The Democrats were in control of the Senate, so it died right there. But now that Republicans are in control of both houses of U.S. Congress, they can't even manage to get health care repealed or any changes made to it or do anything with it at all. There's nothing but infighting and bickering over what needs to be done with health care. Always much easier when you to come out and make a stand when it can't possibly pass than when you're in control of things, and it will.
Yes, being an opposition member is the easiest job in the world. Just say no.
That is exactly correct, Jim.
We'll have more with Mike Shedlock right after this.
Avan Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN AF. surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines. Avan's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avanresources.com.
Keep informed. Receive our weekly recap of thought-provoking articles, podcasts, and radio delivered to your inbox for free. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage, HowStreet.com. Welcome back. We're still chatting with Mike Shedlock. Mish, the Scottish say once again they want an independence referendum. Will it pass this time?
Don't believe so, and I don't think it should. I think Scotland would. I thought it might pass last time. In fact, I was actually hoping it would pass last time. But that's not because I thought that it would particularly benefit Scotland, but rather Scotland is overwhelmingly socially liberal, overwhelmingly in favor of the EU. Without those Scottish votes, the Brexit vote would not have been close. As it was, Brexit vote leave won by a far bigger percentage than I expected. I thought it was going to be a squeaker. So here we are. So they're asking for another vote. But when you look at things, the price of oil is plunging. The actual budget of Scotland, if you look at it under EMU, the Eurozone monetary rules, it would be the worst country worse than Greece, worse than Portugal, worse than any of these nations in terms of meeting its budget. Scotland depends largely on oil exports, and not only is the price of oil down, the price of production in the North Sea, just because of technical difficulties, is among the highest in the world. So there are lots of reasons for anyone living in Scotland to say, you know what, we may not like leaving leaving the EU, but they're stuck with it. So we'll see. In politics of this nature, hardly anything would surprise me, but I don't think it makes sense for Scotland to leave. From other aspects, maybe I can see where Scotland would and should want to rule itself and not be governed by the Great Britain Parliament. But economically speaking, it does not make sense. We'll see how they vote. Actually, we got a couple of years, so this is pretty far off.
Well, when it comes to things like that, people tend to vote with their hearts. I just look at the Caribbean in the 60s. Jamaica voted to be independent. They were poor then, and they still are. The countries that stayed under the guidance of Great Britain are doing very well in the Caribbean. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think a similar thing, might apply here in this case. And again, I think oil is the big factor. The reserves are running out. The price is falling. The cost of production is high. The benefits for staying in the EU and being under a bunch of nanny-crat rules, I don't see it. The Scotland trades more with the UK than it does with the EU. There's just a tremendous number of reasons that it makes no sense.
And Mish, we've talked in the past about robot trucks. How real are they?
Oh, they're very real. They're testing. They actually tested a convoy in California last week. Signals were given between 3 trucks. We're maintaining a distance together. At one point during the test, a real live driver had to take over. But, Jim, this is March of 2017. My prediction, my time frame for when this would happen seriously in a huge way is on the order of 2022. I think we still might beat that. I don't think it's going to be any worse than that. From all I can see, we're still on schedule for that. Millions of jobs are going to vanish. Now, that doesn't mean that every car, every vehicle, whatever, is going to be self-driving. A lot of them are going to have that capability, or at least more of that capability. But with trucks, we're talking primarily interstate. We're talking long-haul trucking jobs. There's millions of them, and it's relatively easy to map, interstate point to point, and predict these maps. And they're doing all kinds of interesting things. One of them is they're taking these pictures of the substrate 3 inches, 6 inches below ground, actually 6 inches or a foot below ground, that can actually read through 3 or 4 or 5 inches of snow and know precisely where they are simply by following, the substrate. It's certainly not out of the question that they could have signal outputs, say, a mile apart on the interstates, so the trucks know where they are. I don't think that would be all that expensive, to do compared to the benefits. So we're going to see it for sure with trucks, and I think we're going to see it with taxis in big cities and overseas in places like Singapore and Japan. They're talking about having taxis with actually no steering wheel at all and no brake pedal at all. And these things are going to happen. They're going to happen far sooner than most people think. But that does not mean with cars it's going to be instantaneous. I think with trucks on the interstate highway it is.
Well, if people think folks won't ride in a driverless vehicle, we've had driverless subway cars in Vancouver since 1986.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What we're seeing here is a slow conditioning of the public to accept the fact, and I fully believe this, Jim, these driverless vehicles will be safer and there will be less accidents. Most of the truck accidents we see today are because drivers are tired. They're falling asleep. They're driving too many hours. They're rushing to make that delivery. They're driving too fast. They will go the speed limit. They will do it safely. Automation doesn't get tired, and if it gets into a situation it can't handle, the truck will simply drive over to the side of the road and park itself. So all of these things are for the good, but millions of jobs are going to vanish in the process.
You're going to have to learn how to fix these robots.
Well, the robots are here. Now, I get in debates with people on robots all the time, Jim. 100 years ago, something like 90% of the people worked on farms, and now it's like 2%. And yet, despite the increase, and what do we have? We've got combines, we've got automatic planters, we've got improved genetics in crops that are more drought resistant, all of these kinds of things. So despite that, if someone would have asked people 100 years ago where the jobs are going to come from, no one would have guessed airlines, trains, computers, or any number of other things that happened. People ask me all the time where the jobs are going to come from. The answer is, I don't know. The big problem that I see, though, is technology is inherently deflationary. It takes far fewer people to do anything now than it did 10, 15, and certainly 100 years ago. And all of these advancements are technologically deflationary. The big problem in my mind is the Fed is insisting, and central banks in general are insisting upon inflation in a technology deflationary world, and that is the source of the lot of friction that we see here. We've got an oversupply of people relative to the skills that it now takes to do these jobs, and the Fed is at the heart of this mess, and they've blown a huge stock market bubble by insisting upon inflation in a deflationary world.
Mish, thank you so much for your help.
A pleasure to be on, Jim, and we'll catch you.
My guest has been Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on MishTalk.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com Radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com Radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com Radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.